The envelope lay on the kitchen table. White, ordinary, with a luxury hotel logo printed in the corner. It was Thursday afternoon. I was watering the geraniums on the balcony, the ones my husband Vittorio had planted before leaving us. I thought it was advertising. I opened it absent-mindedly while drinking my coffee. Inside, an invoice. Hotel Palazzo Reale, Milan. Suite room 403, 2 nights. Date, March 15-17, 2025. Guest name, Matteo Ferretti. My son. Total, €2,400. Room service, champagne, couples massages. The cup almost fell from my hands. Matteo had married Sofia 6 months ago. They had left for their honeymoon in Greece. Why was the hotel sending me this invoice now? And above all, why did it say couples massages if Sofia, 2 weeks ago, had gone to visit her sick mother in Naples alone? My heart started beating fast. I reread the invoice 3 times. The credit card used for the booking was the business one I had given Matteo 6 months earlier for expenses related to the commercial activity he managed. The card was in my name. Mrs. Elena Ferretti. That's why they had sent me the invoice. A billing error. They thought my address, but it had been a fortunate mistake. A terrible fortune. I picked up the phone with trembling hands. I called the hotel. Good morning, Hotel Palazzo Reale. How can I help you? Good morning. I received an invoice for a reservation on March 15th, 17, room 403. I wanted to verify some details. Certainly, madam. Tell me the confirmation number. I read it from the invoice. I heard the woman typing. Yes, reservation under Matteo Ferretti. Suite room with Duomo view. 2 guests. Check-in March 15th at 4:30 p.m. Check-out March 17th at 11 a.m. Can you tell me the names of the guests? Matteo Ferretti and Chiara Russo. Chiara. My blood ran cold. Chiara Russo was Sofia's friend, the witness at their wedding, the girl who had made the moving speech about fidelity, eternal love, about Sofia's luck in finding a man like my son. Madam? Are you still there? Yes, thank you. Can you send me a detailed copy of the invoice by email? Certainly. Give me the address. I gave her my email and hung up. I sat in the kitchen, staring at that invoice, while the world around me collapsed. 6 months. 6 months had passed since that wonderful day when I saw my only son walk up to the altar. 6 months since I had spent every penny of my savings to realize his dream. 180,000 euros. Everything I had accumulated in 40 years of work as a pharmacist, everything Vittorio had left me when he died suddenly of a stroke 7 years ago. And now? Now I discovered that Sofia, that sweet girl who called me Mama Elena with teary eyes, who hugged me every time we saw each other, who swore eternal love to my son, was hiding something from me. Or worse, they were both hiding something from me. I looked at the clock. 3 in the afternoon. Sofia was at home, in our apartment. Yes, because after the wedding they had come to live here. Just for a few months, Mom, until we find something. A few months had become 6, and I had given up the master bedroom, the one I had shared with Vittorio, to go sleep in the small room that was once Matteo's. I got up, took my purse, the brown leather one I've used for 20 years, a gift from Vittorio, and left without saying anything to anyone. Sofia was locked in her room, my room, doing who knows what. Probably on the phone with someone. I didn't even say goodbye to her. I went straight to the office of Marco De Santis, a private investigator I had found on the internet the night before when I couldn't sleep and kept turning that invoice over in my mind. I had called him early that morning, told him everything. He had given me an appointment for 4 o'clock. Marco was about 50 years old, gray hair, attentive eyes. He had me sit in his small but tidy office. Mrs. Ferretti, I've done some preliminary research since this morning. Your son Matteo and Chiara Russo have been in a relationship for at least 2 years. 2 years? My voice came out thin. But Matteo only married Sofia 6 months ago. I know. But look at these photos. He turned the computer screen toward me. Images of Matteo and Chiara together. At a bar, on the street, holding hands. The date on the photos, January 2023, 2 years ago. How did you find them? Social media, madam. People forget to delete things. Chiara had these photos on her old Instagram profile, the one she doesn't use anymore. She closed it and opened a new one when Sofia and Matteo officially started dating. When did they officially start dating? March 2023, 2 months after these photos with Chiara. My world was crumbling piece by piece. So Matteo left Chiara for Sofia. Marco shook his head. No. From what I've discovered, he never left her. Mrs. Ferretti, I believe your son is leading a double life. Married to Sofia before the law and family, but with a continued relationship with Chiara. But why? Why marry Sofia if he loves Chiara? Marco leaned back in his chair. That's the right question. And I think I have some answers. Sofia comes from a very wealthy family in Naples, right? Yes. Her father owns 3 pharmacies in the Vomero area. And she inherited properties from her grandmother? Yes. 2 apartments in the center of Naples. How do you know? Because I did my job. Mrs. Ferretti, did Sofia sign a prenuptial agreement? No. Matteo said it wasn't necessary, that they trusted each other. Marco sighed. In Italy, after marriage, acquired assets become community property, unless you choose separation of assets. Sofia chose community property, right? Yes. So in case of divorce, Matteo is entitled to half of everything they own together, including those apartments. I felt the blood drain from my face. You're saying that Matteo married Sofia for the money? I'm saying there's a strong possibility, and that Chiara is an accomplice. They planned everything. Look. He opened another folder on the computer. Messages between Matteo and Chiara that I managed to recover from a cloud backup that Chiara had made and forgotten to delete, dated March 2023. He started reading. Matteo writes, "We're almost there, love. 1 more year and then we'll be rich." Chiara responds, "I can't believe it will really work. Are you sure Sofia doesn't suspect anything?" Matteo, "She's naive. She believes everything I say. Her father already adores me. When we get married, we wait 2 or 3 years, then ask for a divorce. I take half of everything, and you and I can finally be together openly." Tears came to my eyes. My son, my Matteo. "Madam, there's more, and this directly concerns you." "What?" He printed some documents. 3 weeks ago, your son made an appointment with a notary. He wants to sell this apartment." "What? But this apartment is mine." "I know. But in the documents he brought to the notary, there's a power of attorney with your signature that would give him the power to sell the property. Do you recognize it?" He showed me the document. It was my signature. But I had never signed it. I never signed this document. "Are you sure?" I thought. And then I remembered. 2 months ago, Sofia had me sign some documents. She said they were for Matteo's health insurance, that they needed a family member's signature. I signed without reading. I trusted her. Marco nodded gravely. "Mrs. Ferretti, that document wasn't for insurance. It was a general power of attorney. With that, Matteo can sell your apartment without your consent. And according to the notary, the sale is scheduled for next week. He already has a buyer. 850,000 euros. 850,000 euros. The value of my apartment in the Perioli neighborhood of Rome. The apartment that Vittorio and I had bought 30 years ago, where we had raised Matteo, where every corner held a memory. They're going to steal my home," I whispered. "Yes, and that's not all. Sofia doesn't know. I spoke with a friend of hers who works at the same real estate agency. Sofia believes that she and Matteo are looking for a house to move to. She knows nothing about the sale. Matteo is lying to her. So Matteo wants to sell my apartment, take the money, probably hide it, and then divorce Sofia to take half of her assets too." "Exactly. And Chiara has been in this plan from the beginning. When I checked her bank accounts through a contact I have, she received several transfers from Matteo in recent months. 15,000 euros in total. Probably to keep her silent and loyal during the cover marriage." I sat in silence, processing everything. My son, the child I had raised, whom I had loved unconditionally, whom I had educated with values of honesty and respect, was a con artist, a manipulator, and he was about to steal everything from me and his wife. "What can I do?" I finally asked. Marco leaned forward. "You can cancel the power of attorney. You can block the sale. And you can expose Matteo in front of Sofia and the family. But you must act quickly. The sale is scheduled for next Tuesday. Today is Thursday. You have 4 days." "How do I do it?" "First thing, we go to the notary tomorrow morning. Bring an ID and declare that the power of attorney was obtained through deception. The notary will be obligated to block the sale. Second, I continue investigating. I collect as much evidence as possible. Third, we organize a confrontation, public, with witnesses, where Matteo can't deny." I took a deep breath. Let's do it. That evening I returned home as if nothing had happened. Sofia was cooking. "Hi, Mama Elena. I made lasagna, the kind you like." I smiled. "Thank you, dear." But inside my heart was broken. Because Sofia didn't deserve this. She was as much a victim as I was. Matteo arrived at 8, tired from work. He kissed me on the cheek. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" "Good, my son. Everything's fine." We had dinner together, the three of us. Sofia was laughing, telling stories about a difficult customer at the pharmacy. Matteo was smiling, holding her hand. And I watched the scene, wondering how I could have raised a monster. That night I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the hotel invoice, the messages between Matteo and Chiara, the fake power of attorney. At 3 a.m, I went to the kitchen for water. I saw light under the master bedroom door. I stood still, listening. Matteo's voice, low. "Yes, love. 4 more days. Tuesday the house is sold. We take the money and move it to the offshore account." Pause. "No, Sofia doesn't know anything. She thinks we're looking for our own house." Laughter. "You're a genius, Chiara. This plan is perfect. When I've divorced and taken half of Sofia's assets, you and I can finally be together. No more hiding." I felt my stomach twist. I had to hold back nausea. I returned to my small room, sat on the bed, and cried silently into the pillow. The next morning, Friday, I went to the notary with Marco. I signed the revocation of the power of attorney. The notary, an elderly man with thick glasses, seemed very embarrassed. "Mrs. Ferretti, I'm terribly sorry. I should have verified better. Your son brought me the document already signed. He assured me you were aware." "It's not your fault," I said. "He's very convincing." The sale was blocked. Now Matteo would find out soon, and I had to be ready. Marco called me in the afternoon. I have everything. Recordings of calls between Matteo and Chiara that I obtained legally through a wiretap I requested with a judge's authorization, explaining the fraud case. Hotel photos, bank statements showing the transfers, messages, everything. "When do we do the confrontation?" "Tomorrow night. Family dinner. Invite everyone who matters. Sofia's parents, her siblings, Matteo's family, close friends. Make an announcement during dinner. With all this in front of them, Matteo won't be able to deny." I hesitated. "Marco, Sofia will be destroyed." "I know, but she deserves to know the truth before losing everything. We can save her from this disaster, but she needs to know." That evening, at dinner, I made the announcement. "I want to organize a dinner tomorrow night, a special dinner to celebrate Matteo and Sofia's 6 months of marriage. I'm inviting everyone, family, friends. It will be a lovely evening." Sofia clapped happily. "Oh, Mama Elena, what a wonderful idea." Matteo seemed tense. "Mom, it's not necessary. We don't want to bother everyone." "It's not a bother. I want to do this. For you." I looked straight into his eyes, and I saw something pass in his gaze. Fear, suspicion. I don't know. But I knew one thing. The next day, all the truth would come out. If you want to know how I exposed the cruelest lie of my life, don't leave. Because this story is just beginning. And if you like true stories, stories that could happen to any family, subscribe to the channel now. You won't want to miss what comes next. The beginning. Let me go back a bit, because to understand the pain I felt when I opened that invoice, you need to know how it all started. I met Sophia 2 years ago. It was a Sunday lunch at my cousin Gabriella's house. Matteo had come with me, grumbling as always. My son was never one for family gatherings. He preferred to stay home working on the computer, managing his small IT consulting business. 34 years old, single, too focused on his career. I had lost hope of seeing grandchildren. But that day he appeared different. Bright eyes, wide smile, and next to him, a girl with long brown hair, green eyes, a floral dress that fit her body well. "Mom, this is Sophia." She hugged me with that expensive perfume, the kind they sell in luxury perfume shops. "Mrs. Elena, Matteo talks so much about you. What a pleasure to finally meet you." 29 years old, pharmacist, lived alone in a small apartment in Trastevere. At least that's what she said. And I was enchanted because after 7 years alone, since Vittorio had died from that sudden stroke that had left me a widow at 59, I had forgotten how nice it was to see my son so happy. Sophia started coming to my house. Every week she had a reason. She came for dinner, brought dessert, asked for recipes, always in that gentle way, calling me Mama Elena. "Mama Elena, will you teach me to make that ragu that Matteo loves? Mama Elena, can I ask your advice about my work? Mama Elena, you're the mother-in-law I've always dreamed of." I melted. What a fool. My house is in the Parioli neighborhood, an elegant area of Rome. 3 bedrooms, large living room, terrace with a view of the pine trees. Vittorio had bought this apartment 30 years ago when he was still building his career as a lawyer. We had paid every installment with sacrifice. When he died, he left me this and over 600,000 euros in life insurance and savings. I lived on his lawyer's pension and my own pension. I had worked 40 years as a pharmacist. There was never anything missing, never much left over, but it was mine, it was ours. Matteo had grown up in this apartment. Every room had a memory. The mark on the kitchen door where we measured his height every birthday. The scratch on the bathroom floor he had made playing superheroes. The wine stain on the living room wall from that unforgettable New Year's Eve. And Sophia looked at everything with those eyes that assessed the price. Only I didn't realize it. I was too busy feeling like I had a daughter because that's what she made me feel. She gave me attention. She made me feel important again. She called me every day. "Mama Elena, how was your day?" She sent me messages with cute emojis. She invited me to lunch, always splitting the bill, of course, but making me feel included. I grew attached, and when, after a year of dating, Matteo asked her to marry him on our terrace in front of the pine trees, I cried so much I soaked the floor. "Mom, you'll have the daughter-in-law you've always wanted," Matteo said, hugging me tight. I believed it. 3 months later, he came with the conversation. We were all 3 in the living room, having coffee after Sunday lunch. Sophia had her nails done, always very well groomed, that girl. And Matteo was nervously playing with the cup. "Mom, we need to talk about the wedding." My heart accelerated with joy. "Have you already set the date?" "Yes, in 5 months. But the problem is that..." He looked at Sophia, who made a sad expression. "We want to do something special, you know, memorable. But our budget is very tight." Sophia put her hand on his arm. "Matteo, we don't need a big party. The important thing is being together." But I saw in her eyes that sparkle, that expectation. "How much do you need?" I asked. "Mom, no, we can't accept." "Matteo," I took his hand, "you're my only son. This is the only time I'll see you get married. How much?" Sophia sighed as if embarrassed. "The place we dream of, with everything we've imagined, costs around 120,000 euros. I swallowed hard. That was a lot of money. "But we can do something simpler," she added quickly. "Really, Mrs. Elena, I don't want you to sacrifice yourself." I looked at them both, saw Matteo squeeze her hand, that hope in his gaze, and I thought, when will I be able to make my son this happy again? "I'll pay," I said. "Everything. You'll have the wedding you deserve." Sophia stood up and hugged me. "Mama Elena, you're an angel. I promise I'll take very good care of Matteo, and of you too. We're a family now." Family. How dearly that word would cost me. In the following months I started transferring the money. First 45,000 for the banquet. She chose a place at Villa Borghese with a garden view, capacity for 150 guests. Then another 18,000 for the dress. It had to be imported, with those rhinestones that look like a princess's. Flowers, 12,000. DJ, lights, favors, invitations, another 25,000. Photographer, 7,000. In the end, it was 180,000 euros, practically a third of everything I had. But the smile on Matteo's face was worth every penny. Or at least that's what I thought. The wedding day was beautiful. Sophia was stunning in that dress full of rhinestones. Matteo cried when he saw her enter. I cried with him. Chiara, her best friend from university days, gave a moving speech as a witness. She talked about friendship, loyalty, about how Matteo had found the perfect woman. Loyalty. What a bitter joke. The party was everything they had promised. Abundant food, loud music, people dancing until dawn. I was exhausted but happy. I thought I had fulfilled my duty as a mother. When the honeymoon was over, 15 days in Greece that they paid for themselves, the two would return, find an apartment, and follow their lives. But that's not how it went. The trap closes. The first 15 days after their return from the honeymoon were strange. Sophia came to my house to show me photos of Greece. Blue sea, colorful drinks, smiling Matteo. Everything seemed perfect. Mama Elena, it was incredible. Thank you again for making it all possible. She hugged me, but this time the hug was quick, mechanical. Matteo was also different, more taciturn. When I asked about work, he answered in monosyllables. It's fine, Mom. Intense. I thought it was travel fatigue. In the third week, Matteo came alone for coffee with me. It was Saturday morning, and I had made donuts, the kind he's loved since childhood. Mom, we need to talk. My stomach froze. When someone starts like that, good things never come. Tell me, son. He was playing with the coffee cup, not looking at me. The thing is that Sophia's apartment lease is up, and so is mine. We're temporarily living at a friend's house, but we can't stay long. I waited for him to continue. We're looking for a place, but it's difficult. Rents in Rome are absurd. 2,500, 3,000 euros a month for something decent. And with the wedding expenses still on the card. He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood the request before he even made it. You want to live here? He finally looked at me. Just for a few months, Mom, until we save money for rent and deposit. It would be a huge savings. And you wouldn't be alone. It's a big house. There's space. My heart tightened. Part of me, the stupid part, the part that still believed in family, was happy to have my son close again. Not to wake up anymore in that silent house, just me and the memories. Of course, son. This has always been your home, too. His smile was one of relief. Thank you, Mom. I promise it won't be a bother. Sophia is neat, clean, quiet. You won't even feel we're here. Lie. They moved in on a rainy Thursday. They brought 3 large suitcases, boxes of books, clothes, objects. Sophia looked at the house as if evaluating every corner. Mrs. Elena, can we use the room at the end? It's the largest. The room at the end was my room, the room I had shared with Vittorio for 30 years. The bed where he had slept for the last time. The closet that still kept 2 of his shirts I couldn't donate. Sophia, that's my room. Ah, but are you using it? She asked in that innocent tone. Because if it's not a problem, we would sleep there. It has more space, more ventilation. And the front room is smaller, but super comfortable for you. Matteo appeared carrying a box. Mom, it doesn't have to be right away. We can wait for you to get organized. But Sophia was already opening the bedroom door. Wow, how beautiful. Look, honey, it even has a walk-in closet. I stood there frozen, feeling the floor disappear beneath my feet. All right, I murmured. You can take the room. It took me 3 days to move my things to the smaller front room. Every piece of clothing I pulled from the closet was a stab. Every object I wrapped in newspaper, the photo frame from the wedding, the music box Vittorio had given me, the crocheted blanket his mother had made, was a piece of me torn away. Sophia didn't even help. She stayed in the living room looking at her phone, laughing at something. The first 2 weeks were quiet. Sophia woke up late, had breakfast, stayed in her room, or went out. Matteo worked all day, arrived at 8 in the evening, had dinner, and went to sleep. I cooked, washed dishes, cleaned the house, as always. But at the end of the 3rd week, things started to change. Sophia came into the kitchen one Saturday morning while I was preparing lunch. She wrinkled her nose. "Mrs. Elena, what's that smell?" "I'm making a bacchio." "A bacchio?" She made a face. "But it's so heavy and fatty. Matteo is trying to lose weight." "Didn't you know?" I didn't know. "Besides, this house keeps the smell of food all day. You need to open more windows, okay?" I opened the window. I continued cooking. The next day, she reorganized the entire kitchen. I came in the morning and didn't recognize anything. The jars I kept in the top cabinet were at the bottom. The pots I kept hanging were gone. The spices I left next to the stove were inside a closed plastic box. "Sophia, why did you touch my things?" She came out of the bedroom tying her robe. "Ah, Mama Elena, sorry. It was so disorganized. I put in a better order. Now it's more functional." Functional. My kitchen, where I had cooked for 40 years, had become functional. And this was just the beginning. In the following days, Sophia started complaining about everything. The living room TV was too old. "Mrs. Elena, that's still a tube TV? Nobody uses that stuff anymore." The furniture was outdated. "These leather armchairs are horrible. It looks like an old person's house." An old person's house. I was 67 years old. The sofa was uncomfortable. The curtains let in too much light. The bathroom had mold in the grout. Every comment was a splinter. But I swallowed it because Matteo seemed happy. Or at least, that's what I wanted to believe. One evening, a month after they had been living with me, Chiara appeared. Matteo called me to watch the game. "Mrs. Elena, is everything okay?" "Of course, Chiara. Make yourself comfortable." But Matteo wasn't even home. He had stayed late at work. Chiara stayed. She sat on the sofa next to Sophia. Both watched TV, laughed, talked in low voices. I passed through the living room to get water. I saw her hand on the arm of the sofa, too close to her hand. "Do you want something, Mrs. Elena?" Sophia asked, smiling. "No, I'm going to bed." I closed the door of my room, the small room that wasn't really mine, and tried not to think about what I was seeing. But deep down, I already knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Because admitting meant accepting that my son had married a lie, and that I had paid 180,000 euros to finance that lie. The renovation trap. 2 months after they had been living with me, Sophia came into the living room with a home decor magazine under her arm. It was Sunday morning and I was having breakfast alone. Matteo had gone out running, a new thing Sophia had convinced him to do. "Mama Elena, can I sit?" "Of course." She opened the magazine to a marked page. Modern houses, minimalist, all white and gray. Nothing that resembled my house. "Mrs. Elena, I have an idea. Matteo and I were talking. Your house is wonderful. It has incredible potential. But it needs some adjustments, you know." I felt the alarm sound in my head. "What kind of adjustments?" "A renovation. Nothing too big," she said quickly, smiling. "But look, new paint, change these old furniture pieces, modernize the kitchen, make a more current bathroom. The house would increase greatly in value, and you would also feel renewed. Renewed. As if I were an old piece of furniture that needed restoration. Sophia, I don't have money for a renovation now. I spent a lot on the wedding." I know. She put her hand on mine in that affectionate, fake way. "But that's exactly why. You invested so much in us. Now let us give back. Matteo and I will pay for the renovation. It's our gift to you." Gift. It's not necessary, Sophia. The house is fine as it is. "Mrs. Elena," she interrupted me, still smiling, but the tone changed. "With all due respect, the house is not fine. It's old, it's falling apart. The exterior wall plaster is peeling. There's infiltration in the kitchen ceiling. The faucets are leaking. If you don't take care of it now, it will get worse and cost more." She wasn't completely wrong. The house needed maintenance. But a complete renovation? Matteo entered at that moment, sweaty from his run. Mom, did Sophia talk to you about the renovation? Yes, but I don't think it's necessary. Mom, he sat next to me. Let us do this. We're living here for free, saving on rent. It's fair to give back. And honestly, the house needs it. You yourself complain about the leaking faucet, about the boiler that keeps burning out. I looked at both of them. My sweaty son with that face of someone who just wants to help, and Sophia with that perfect smile. How much would it cost? Sophia opened a notebook. She already had the prices written down. Of course. I got some estimates. Between materials and labor, about 80,000 euros. I almost choked on my coffee. But we can split with you, Matteo said quickly. We put in half, you the other half. That's 40,000 each. It's an investment in the house, Mom. It will increase in value. 40,000 euros. Almost half of what I had already spent on the wedding. I don't know, son. Let me think about it. Mrs. Elena. Sophia closed the magazine. No pressure, okay? But if we're going to do it, it has to be soon. I found an excellent mason, but he's in high demand. If you don't decide this week, you'll have to wait months. Pressure without pressure. I spent 3 days thinking. Looking at the walls of my house, the floor that was really worn, the faucets that leaked, the furniture that had the marks of 40 years of use. Maybe they were right. Maybe the house really needed it. On the 4th day, I agreed. All right, let's do the renovation. Sophia's smile was instant. Oh, Mama Elena, you'll see how beautiful it will become. Matteo hugged me. Thank you for trusting us, Mom. The next day, Sophia appeared with the mason, a man in his 50s named Roberto, with a folder full of documents. He measured, photographed, noted everything. Sophia went along, pointing. Here we knock down this wall. There we put porcelain stoneware. This kitchen needs to be completely redone. Knock down the wall? No one had talked about demolishing anything. Sophia, wait! Demolishing walls wasn't in the plan. Mama Elena, trust me, it's to expand the living room. It will become much more modern. Roberto delivered the final estimate. 85,000 euros. 5,000 more than Sophia had said. It's because it includes some improvements, she explained. Like changing the electrical system, which is old, essential for safety. Matteo agreed on everything. And I went to the bank, withdrew my 40,000, gave the money to Matteo, who deposited it together with his part into Sophia's account. It's to facilitate payments, Mom. Sophia is managing everything. The work started on a Monday. 3 men arrived at 7 in the morning with drills, pneumatic hammers, cement bags. The noise was deafening. In the first days, they only broke things. The wall between the living room and kitchen came down. Dust everywhere. Smell of paint, cement, glue. And then they started touching the furniture. Mrs. Elena, we have to remove this old furniture from here. It's blocking the work, said Roberto. You can put them on the terrace. I'll cover them with a tarp, I suggested. But when I went out to shop and came back, half the furniture was gone. Sophia, where's Vittorio's armchair? That moss-green leather one that was in the living room? She didn't even look at me, busy checking her phone. Ah, that one I threw away. It was too old, Mama Elena, torn, ugly. Nobody would have wanted it. I felt the air leave my lungs. You threw it away? Yes, and also that wall clock, the one that made noise every hour. I gave it to Roberto. He said his mother likes those antique things. The pendulum clock, the clock Vittorio had bought on our honeymoon in Amalfi, the clock that rang at 6 in the evening always, and he would stop what he was doing just to listen. Sophia, my voice came out trembling. You had no right to do this. Those things were mine. They were Vittorio's. She finally looked at me, and in that look, for the first time, I saw pure coldness. Mrs. Elena, with all due respect, they were old, useless things. If I had asked, you would have stalled and never let them be thrown away. I did a favor. Favor? My voice rose. You destroyed my husband's memories. Matteo came running in from the street. What shouting is this? Your son, Your wife threw away your father's things. Sophia sighed, playing the victim. Matteo, I just removed that old armchair and a broken clock. It wasn't broken, I yelled. It worked perfectly. Matteo looked at me, then looked at her. Mom, it was unintentional. Sophia was trying to help. Help, Matteo? That armchair was where your father sat every Sunday to read the newspaper, where he stayed the last evening before. I couldn't finish. The tears came. Matteo approached. Mom, I know, but it was just an armchair. We can buy another similar one. Just an armchair. I looked at my son, and for the first time I didn't recognize him. Get out of here, I murmured. Mom, get out of here. He left. Sophia, too. I heard the bedroom door, my bedroom door, slam. I was left alone in the destroyed living room. Wall without plaster, dust covering everything, the empty space where the moss-green armchair used to be. And I understood. They weren't renovating my house. They were erasing my history. The truth revealed. The renovation took 2 months. 2 months of noise, dust, strangers entering and leaving my house. 2 months watching every familiar corner be destroyed and rebuilt into something I didn't recognize. When they finished, Sophia called me to see the result. Mama Elena, come see. It turned out incredible. I came out of my little room, because that's what it had become, a narrow room where the bed and a closet barely fit. And I went to the living room. I stopped at the door and wanted to cry. Everything was white. White walls, white sofa, light gray curtains. The wooden floor that Vittorio had chosen, the one with the warm tone of reclaimed wood, had been covered with cold gray porcelain stoneware. The wall between the living room and kitchen no longer existed. It was all integrated, open, soulless. The furniture was new, modern, without history. So, isn't it wonderful? Sophia spun with her arms open as if showing me a palace. It's different, I murmured. Different. It's current. Look at this LED lighting, these neutral colors, this space. Now the house really has value. Value. Matteo appeared carrying boxes. Mom, look how beautiful. It even looks like a new house. It really did. And that was exactly the problem. Because that was no longer my house. It was their house. In the following days, Sophia imposed more changes. Mrs. Elena, now that the house is beautiful, we have to keep it organized, right? She stuck a sheet on the refrigerator. She had made a household chores schedule, days to clean each room, meal times, kitchen rules, rules in my house. Look here, dinner always at 7 in the evening, no dishes in the sink after 9. Trash must be taken out every night. And here, she pointed to the sheet, I put that you're responsible for lunch since Matteo and I work. But for dinner, we take turns. Okay? She didn't wait for the answer. She left. I looked at that sheet. My life now controlled by schedules from a 29-year-old girl. I started to feel like a guest. I woke up early, had breakfast in silence, cleaned the house, prepared lunch. Matteo left at 7, returned at 8. Sophia woke up late, worked on the computer, went out to solve things. Chiara started appearing almost every day. Hi, Mrs. Elena. Is Matteo here? No, he's at work. Ah, then I'll wait. Sophia said I could come. She entered, sat on the new sofa. She stayed there laughing with Sophia, watching series, asking for glasses of water as if she were family. One afternoon I passed through the living room and saw them very close. Her with the computer on her lap, her leaning over to look at the screen, his hand on the arm of the sofa, too close to her shoulder. Need anything, Mrs. Elena? Sophia asked without taking her eyes off the screen. No, just passing through. But my heart was beating erratically. I started avoiding the living room. I stayed locked in my room, read, watched TV at low volume, tried not to disturb. One night, 3 months after they had been living with me, I couldn't sleep. It was 2 a.m, and I heard voices in the living room. Low, but audible. I opened the door quietly. The hallway was dark. The living room light was on. I approached and listened. Calm down, love. Just a little longer. It was Sophia's voice. I'm tired of this charade, Sophie. When will you be able to get that power of attorney? Matteo. My blood froze. I'm working on it. The old woman is stubborn, but I'll do it. When she signs, everything becomes easier. We take control of her account, liquidate the investments, sell the house. And that idiot Matteo? I heard low laughter. He'll swallow everything in silence, as always. He's so blind he doesn't notice anything. Power of attorney. Sell the house. Idiot Matteo. I returned to my room without making noise. I sat on the bed trembling. They were planning to rob me, and my son didn't know anything. The next day, I acted as if nothing had happened. I had breakfast, cleaned the house, smiled when Matteo said good morning to me. But my head wouldn't stop. I needed to have proof. I needed to be sure before accusing. A week passed. Sophia was kinder, suspiciously kind. Mama Elena, today I'll make a special dinner. Invite cousin Gabriella, call people. Let's celebrate the new house. On Saturday, she prepared a beautiful table. Food, wine, dessert. Matteo was happy. Gabriella and 2 other couples came. Halfway through dinner, Sophia tapped on her glass. People, I want to make a toast to Mrs. Elena, who welcomed us with open arms, to family and the future. Everyone applauded. I forced a smile. After dinner, when everyone had left, Sophia and Matteo called me to the living room. Mom, sit here. My stomach tightened. Matteo took a folder, opened it. Inside were several papers. Mom, Sophia and I were talking. You're getting older. 67 years old now, and with so many things to manage. Accounts, investments, this house. We were worried. Worried about what? Sophia put her hand on my arm. Mama Elena, don't take it the wrong way, but sometimes you forget things. Last week you left the gas on all night. The other day you didn't remember if you had paid the electric bill. Lie. I had never forgotten anything. We want to help you, Matteo continued. That's why we prepared this. He pulled out a document from the folder. It's a power of attorney. It allows Sophia and me to manage your assets, just to facilitate, so you don't have to worry about anything. Power of attorney, the word I had heard in their conversation. I took the paper. I read it. Power of attorney with full powers. Bank account, investments, sale of properties, everything. Matteo, this gives total control of my life to you. It's just to help, Mom. For your own good. For my own good? I looked at both of them. My son with that face of someone who believes he's doing the right thing, and Sophia with that fake smile, those calculating eyes. I need to think about it. Sophia's smile disappeared. Think about it? Mrs. Elena, this is for your benefit. I don't understand the resistance. I said I need to think about it. I got up, took my purse, went out to walk. It was 10 at night, but I needed air. When I returned, the house was dark. I went to my room, locked the door, and cried until the pillow was soaked. My son wanted to take everything from me. Or worse, he didn't want to, but he was being manipulated by that viper. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Vittorio, about what he would have done in this situation. And then, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Ferretti, this is Marco DeSantis, the private investigator. Do you have a minute? I need to see you tomorrow if possible. I found something about the photos, something you need to see. And please, don't tell anyone about it. I hung up with a trembling hand. That call would change everything. Only I didn't know yet how much. The complete truth, I didn't sleep that night. I stayed staring at the ceiling of the small room, thinking about the investigator's call, the power of attorney, the conversation I had heard between Sophia and that mysterious person. Everything was starting to connect, but I was still missing the final piece of the puzzle. The next morning, Friday, I waited for Matteo to leave for work. Sophia was in her room, still asleep. She always slept late. I put on jeans, a discreet blouse, took my purse, and left in silence. Marco's office was in Prati. 20 minutes by subway. I got off in front, climbed 2 flights of stairs, and rang the bell. He opened almost immediately. He looked even more tired than last time. Mrs. Ferretti, thank you for coming. We entered. Same room, same computer on. but this time he had more files open. "I didn't want to do this over the phone," he began, pointing to the chair. "What I'm about to show you is complicated." I sat, gripping my purse tightly. He clicked on a folder. The photos I had already seen appeared. The hotel invoice, Matteo and Chiara together at various moments. "You already know these, but there's more." He clicked on another folder. A sequence of photos appeared. Matteo and Chiara at different times, not just at the hotel, at the bar, on the street, holding hands in a park. This was during the entire engagement period with Sophia. It wasn't a moment. It was the whole relationship. My breathing became heavy. "But what left me most disturbed," Marco continued, "was this." He opened an enlarged photo. Sophia was on a street, talking on her cell phone, away from everything. The investigator had captured her without her realizing. I had a lip-reading expert who works with me analyze it. "Look at what she's saying." He ran his finger across the screen, following the movement of her lips in the photo. "It's working perfectly. The old woman will sign soon. Then we can proceed with the second step." I felt the floor disappear. "Is there more? Look at the time of this photo. 11:15 p.m., a few minutes after they cut the cake at the wedding. Who was she calling?" Marco clicked on another photo. A man, about 40 years old, standing alone on a side street, cell phone to his ear, smiling. "This is Luca Moretti. I identified him. He's Sophia's brother." "Brother? But Sophia told me she has no siblings, that she's an only child." She lied. Luca is 39 years old. He has a long criminal record. Fraud, embezzlement, document forgery. He got out of prison 2 years ago after serving 4 years for defrauding elderly people. My stomach turned. Sophia and Luca work together. She seduces men with assets, gets close to families, gains trust. He provides fake documents, contacts to launder money, buyers for properties. It's a family operation. And Matteo? Matteo is as much a victim as you are. I intercepted conversations between Sophia and Luca in recent days. They talk about how Matteo is perfectly manipulable, how they believe that when he discovers the truth, it will be too late. What do they want? Marco took a paper. They want you to sign the power of attorney. Once signed, they transfer your 600,000 euros to offshore accounts. They sell your apartment for 850,000, total 1,450,000 euros. Then Sophia asks for divorce, invents that Matteo cheated on her, asks for half of the marital assets, which would include half of the proceeds from the sale of the apartment, even though technically it was yours. With a good corrupt lawyer, they get another 300,000. Total. Almost 2 million euros. Then they disappear. Disappear where? Brazil. I found plane tickets already booked under the names Sofia Bianchi and Luca Moretti to Rio de Janeiro. Departure date, November 20th, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Mrs. Ferretti, this is an organized heist. It's not improvised. They chose Matteo because he's the only son of a widowed mother with assets. They planned the wedding, the cohabitation, the renovation to gain your trust. Every step was calculated. I closed my eyes. I felt tears coming but held them back. What can I do? Marco leaned forward. You can block everything. You can cancel any existing power of attorney. You can expose Sophia in front of Matteo and the family. But you must act now. You have 2 weeks before they escape. How? First thing, we go to the notary tomorrow. Formal revocation of any power of attorney. Second, block your bank accounts. Put a security password that only you know. Third, we organize a confrontation. Public, with witnesses, where Sophia and Luca can't deny. I took a deep breath. Let's do it. That evening I returned home as if nothing had happened. Sophia was cooking. Hi, Mama Elena. I made carbonara, the kind you like. I smiled. Thank you, dear. But inside my heart was broken, because deep down, part of me still hoped to be wrong. Matteo arrived at 8, tired from work. He kissed me on the cheek. Hi, Mom. How are you? Good, my son. Everything's fine. We had dinner together, all 3 of us. Sophia was laughing, telling stories about a difficult colleague at the pharmacy. Matteo was smiling, holding her hand, and I watched the scene, wondering how I could have not seen the signs. That night I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the hotel invoice, the messages between Matteo and Chiara, the fake power of attorney, the criminal brother, the tickets to Brazil. At 3 a.m, I went to the kitchen for water. I saw light under the master bedroom door. I stood still, listening. Sophia's voice, low. "Yes, Luca. 2 more weeks. Tuesday the house is sold, we take the money, and move it to the offshore account as planned." Pause. "No, the old woman doesn't know anything. She thinks we're looking for a house for us." Laughter. "You're a genius, little brother. This plan is perfect. When I've divorced and taken half of the assets we got from the sale, you and I can finally relax in Brazil. No more scams for a while." I felt my stomach twist. I had to hold back vomit. I returned to my little room, sat on the bed and cried silently into the pillow. The next morning, Saturday, I went to the notary with Marco. I signed the revocation of any power of attorney. The notary, an elderly man with thick glasses, seemed mortified. "Mrs. Ferretti, I apologize deeply. I should have verified better." "It's not your fault," I said. "She's very convincing." Then we went to the bank. I put security passwords on all accounts. I blocked any transfer over €500 without my physical presence. "Now," Marco said as we left the bank, "we organize the confrontation. Tomorrow night, family dinner. Invite everyone who matters. Sophia's family, even though we'll discover how many lies she told. Matteo's family, close friends. Make an announcement during dinner. With all the evidence in front of them, Sophia won't be able to deny." I hesitated. "Marco, Matteo will be destroyed." "I know, but he deserves to know the truth before losing everything. We can save him, but he needs to know now." That evening, at dinner, I made the announcement. "I want to organize a dinner tomorrow night. A special dinner to celebrate Matteo and Sophia's 6 months of marriage. I'm inviting everyone, family, friends. It will be a lovely evening." Sophia clapped happily. "Oh, Mama Elena, what a wonderful idea." Matteo seemed tense. "Mom, it's not necessary. We don't want to bother everyone." "It's not a bother. I want to do this. For you." I looked straight into Sophia's eyes, and I saw something pass in her gaze. Fear, suspicion. But I knew one thing. The next day, all the truth would come out. The confrontation. The dinner was at Il Convivio restaurant, an elegant place in Trastevere I had known for years. Marco had reserved a private room. I had invited 12 people. Cousin Gabriella, aunts, cousins, Matteo's close friends. And I had insisted that Sophia invite her family. "Invite your father, your mother, your siblings if you have any," I had said in an innocent tone. She had hesitated. "Mama Elena, my father isn't well. And as I told you, I'm an only child. My mother is dead." "Ah, right, I apologize. Then invite friends. Chiara, for example." "Sure, Chiara will definitely come." Sunday evening. I dressed in my best dress, the navy blue one from the wedding. I put on makeup, wore my pearl earrings, the ones Vittorio had given me for our 20th anniversary. When Sophia saw me, she laughed. "Wow, Mama Elena, you're all elegant. Are you so happy to sign the documents?" I smiled. "I'm happy because today is the day of truth." She didn't understand the weight of the phrase. We arrived at the restaurant at 8. Large table, beautiful decoration, discreet waiters. Matteo was nervous, talking to everyone. Sophia was stunning, tight red dress, perfect makeup. Chiara arrived last, hugged Matteo, greeted everyone. During dinner I conversed, laughed, joked. Everyone was light, happy, until the moment for dessert arrived. I tapped on the wine glass with the little knife. Everyone looked at me. "Guys, thank you for being here. Tonight is special because today I'll tell a story about lies, betrayals, and justice." Matteo furrowed his brow. "Mom, what?" "Let me finish, son." A waiter brought a screen. Marco, who was discreet in a corner, turned on the projector. The first image appeared on the screen, Matteo and Chiara at Hotel Palazzo Reale. The invoice, The booking details. Room 403. Couples massages. Date. March 15th, 2025. 2 weeks ago. The silence was deafening. Matteo turned white. He looked at the screen, then at me, then at Chiara, then at Sophia. Mom, what is this? Wait. I'm not finished. I clicked the remote. The next image appeared. Matteo and Chiara together at a bar. Date, January 2023, 2 years ago. Then another photo. The two on the street, holding hands. Then another. A kiss. Matteo and Chiara have been in a relationship for at least 2 years, I said in a firm voice. Before you, Sophia, entered his life. Throughout your entire engagement, and even after the wedding. Sophia stood up, face red. Mrs. Elena, what joke is this? Sit down. My voice came out sharp. I'm not finished. She hesitated. Chiara was petrified in her chair, sweating. I clicked again. Now a document appeared on the screen. Complete investigation. Relationship between Matteo Ferretti and Chiara Russo. 2 years. Messages, photos, hotel bookings. I started reading some messages Marco had recovered. Matteo writes, just a little longer, love. When I've married Sophia and gained access to her assets, we get rid of her and can be together openly. Matteo closed his eyes. Chiara responds, I can't stand seeing you with her anymore. But you're right. The plan will work. Cousin Gabriella brought her hand to her mouth. The aunts murmured among themselves. But wait, I said, because there's more, much more. I looked at Sophia. She was pale now. The mask was falling. Sophia Bianchi. Or should I say Sophia Moretti? Her eyes widened. Yes, I discovered your real name, and I discovered your brother, Luca Moretti, currently on probation after 4 years in prison for aggravated fraud against elderly people. I clicked. Luca's photo appeared on the screen. This man is your brother, the brother you said doesn't exist. You lied about everything, about your family, about your past, about your intentions. Matteo looked at me confused. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that your wife is a professional con artist, son. She and her brother planned everything. They chose you because you're the only son of a widowed mother with assets. The wedding was a heist. The goal was to make me sign a power of attorney, sell my apartment, take my money, and disappear. No, Matteo whispered. No, this isn't true. It's true. I pulled out the folder Marco had given me. I have here recordings of conversations between Sophia and Luca. Conversations where they plan the sale of my apartment, where they laugh about how easy it was to manipulate you, where they talk about plane tickets to Brazil already bought. Departure, November 20th, in 2 weeks. Sophia finally exploded. You nosy old woman, you had no right to investigate me. I had every right when you were about to steal my home, when you were about to destroy my son, when you had built an entire life of lies. I clicked again. Bank statements appeared. These show the transfers you made to Luca in recent months, 25,000 euros in total. Money you took from accounts in your and Matteo's names, wedding money, my son's money. Matteo stood up, trembling. Sophia, tell me it's not true. Tell me my mother is lying. She looked at him, and for a moment I saw something in her gaze. Not remorse. Anger at being discovered. Matteo, Tell me it's not true. I had to do it. You don't understand. Luca needed... Enough. Matteo's voice was broken. Enough. He turned to Chiara. And you? All this time? Did you love me, or were you also part of the plan? Chiara started crying. Matteo, I really love you, but Sophia... She offered me money. She told me the plan was just to take some money from your wealthy family, that no one would get hurt. I needed the money. My father is sick. He has debts. So you sold me, Matteo said quietly. You sold me for money. The restaurant was in absolute silence. Even the waiters had stopped. Marco approached with more documents. Mrs. Sophia Moretti, I have here a complaint already prepared. Aggravated fraud, document forgery, embezzlement. You and your brother risk between 5 and 10 years in prison each. Sophia jumped up. You can't. I can and I will, I said, unless you do exactly what I say. First, you leave my house tomorrow morning at 10. Take your things and disappear. Second, you sign the marriage annulment documents for fraud right now. Third, you return to Matteo the 25,000 euros you stole. You have 60 days. If you don't pay, the complaint goes forward. Fourth, you and your brother cancel those tickets to Brazil and stay in Italy, where I can keep an eye on you. If you try to escape, the police will catch you at the airport. Sophia was shaking with rage. You think you're so smart. But you ruined your son. Look at him. She pointed at Matteo, who was sitting, head in his hands, crying. You destroyed his marriage, his happiness. No, I said calmly. What I destroyed was your scam. I saved my son before you completely destroyed him. Gabriella stood up and poured a glass of water on Sophia. Shame on you. Shame on you for what you did to this family. The restaurant security appeared. Marco had warned them beforehand. They escorted Sophia and Chiara out. She was screaming, struggling. Chiara went silently, head down. When the door closed, the room remained silent. Matteo was still sitting, face in his hands. I approached, put my hand on his shoulder. Son. Mom. His voice came out muffled, full of pain. I didn't know anything. I swear I didn't know. I know. She used me. They both used me. And I defended Sophia when you tried to warn me. I didn't believe you. I treated you badly. I knelt in front of him, took his face with both hands. Matteo, you were a victim. She's a professional at this. It's not your fault. He cried on my shoulder. My 34-year-old son crying like a child, and I cried with him. Because even after everything, after the betrayal, the heist, the humiliation, the pain of seeing my son suffer was greater than anything else. Gabriella approached, hugged us both. The aunts too. Soon the whole table was around us, supporting us, consoling us. When Matteo finally calmed down, he wiped his face and looked at me. Mom, forgive me for everything, for bringing her into your life, for not protecting you. You were deceived, son. You don't need to apologize. I do. I let her destroy your things, take your room, humiliate you in your own house. I failed as a son. I shook my head. You didn't fail. You just gave trust to the wrong person, and now we'll fix it. Together. Marco approached. Mrs. Ferretti, Sophia signed the annulment documents. They're legally valid. The marriage is null, and she agreed to return the 25,000 euros in monthly installments. And Luca? The police are looking for him. He'll be arrested for violating probation and new fraud. He'll go back to prison. And Chiara? She signed a complete confession. In exchange, we won't file charges against her, but she'll have to testify against Sophia and Luca if necessary. I nodded. Good. That night we returned home. Matteo and I. Gabriella and her husband came with us for safety. When we entered, the house was empty. Sophia had already taken her things and disappeared. Matteo looked around the white, cold, soulless room. Mom, we'll fix all this. I'll bring back your furniture. I'll find an armchair like Dad's, a clock just like it. I promise. I know, son. We'll fix it together. He hugged me tight. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never, Matteo. I would never give up on you. That night, I slept for the first time in months with the feeling of having regained control of my life. And I knew the worst was over. Now the rebuilding began. Rebuilding and lessons learned. The following months were about healing. Slow, painful, but necessary. Sophia disappeared from Rome. I learned from Marco that she returned to Naples, to an aunt's house. Luca was arrested 2 days after the dinner. He went back to prison for another 5 years. Matteo started therapy. Twice a week he went to the psychologist. He came home silent, thoughtful. But slowly, I started to see changes. He stopped blaming himself constantly. He started laughing again. And we started fixing the house. We repainted the walls. No more cold white. We chose a warm yellow that reminded of the original color. We put back the antique furniture, the ones Sophia hadn't thrown away. Matteo found a moss-green leather armchair in an antique shop in Trastevere. It cost €2,800. He paid without hesitation. When he brought it home and put it in the corner of the living room, I sat down and cried. "It's it, son. It's just like it." He knelt in front of the armchair. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not protecting what was yours." The pendulum clock was more difficult. We searched for weeks, until Gabriella found an ad on the internet. Antique wall clock, German music box, rings every hour. It cost €1,600. When Matteo hung it on the wall and 6 o'clock in the evening arrived, the clock rang. That familiar, welcoming sound that filled the house. I stopped. I closed my eyes and felt Vittorio there with me. "Welcome home, love," I murmured. With the money Sophia started returning, 25,000 in monthly installments of €2,000, we redid the house. But this time the right way. We put back the wooden floor. We rebuilt the wall between the living room and kitchen. We brought back the colors, the life, the memories. It took 4 months, but when we finished, the house was mine again. Matteo stayed living with me, but now it was different. He helped. He cooked with me on Sundays. He watched the news sitting in Dad's armchair. He talked, laughed, was present. "Mom, I was so blind," he told me one evening while we were having tea in the kitchen. "So focused on seeming happy that I forgot what really matters." "And what matters?" "You. Us. This house. Our history." I took his hand. "Now you know." 6 months later, Matteo met Giulia, math teacher, 31 years old, simple, sincere. She came to dinner once. She treated me with genuine respect. She asked about Vittorio. She praised the house. And when she left, she didn't try to convince me of anything. She just said, "Mrs. Elena, it was a pleasure to meet you." "That one," I told Matteo after, "is a real woman." Sophia tried to come back twice. She sent messages, she called, she even appeared at the door once. Matteo didn't even respond. She never paid all €25,000. She stopped after 12,000 and disappeared. Marco filed charges. But by that point, I didn't care anymore. Chasing the money wasn't worth the peace we had recovered. And I learned that silence is not peace. Silence is fear in disguise. When you silence yourself in the face of injustice, you're not being understanding. You're being complicit in your own destruction. I learned that a mother's love doesn't mean being a doormat. Loving your son doesn't mean accepting everything, swallowing everything, paying for everything. It means sometimes saying no. It means setting limits. It means teaching, even if it hurts, what respect is. And I learned that manipulative people study their victims. Sophia didn't choose me by chance. She saw a lonely widow, an only son, consolidated assets. She saw an opportunity and acted with surgical precision. That's why I say, beware of those who arrive promising too much, of those who call you mom before building a real relationship, of those who want access too quickly to your life, your accounts, your house. True intimacy is built with time. Haste is a sign of hidden interest. Today, as I write this story, or rather, as I tell this story to you who are listening to me, I'm 69 years old. White hair I no longer hide. Wrinkles I wear with pride. Hands that tremble a bit, but still hold tight to what's mine. I'm sitting in the moss-green armchair, the same one where Vittorio used to sit. The same one Sophia threw away and Matteo recovered. Next to me, on the wooden side table, a cup of steaming coffee. On the wall, the pendulum clock just struck 4 in the afternoon. Matteo is in the kitchen with Giulia. Both are preparing dinner. I hear their laughter, the sound of pots, the sound of life happening. And I look around this house, my house, and think about everything I've been through. There are people who can listen to this story and think, poor woman, she was deceived, robbed, humiliated. But you know what I say? I wasn't poor. I was a warrior. Because I could have stayed silent. I could have signed that power of attorney, handed over everything, become invisible in my own life. I could have swallowed the humiliations, accepted the version Sophia wanted to impose. The confused old woman, forgetful, who got in the way of the young couple's life. But I didn't accept. And this is the first lesson I want to leave. Silence is not peace. Silence is fear in disguise. When you silence yourself in the face of injustice, you're not being understanding. You're being complicit in your own destruction. And I refused to be complicit. There are people who will say, but you spent so much money. You suffered so much. Was it worth it? And I answer, it was worth it. Because I recovered something that no money can buy, my dignity. I learned that a mother's love is not synonymous with doormat. Loving your son doesn't mean accepting everything, swallowing everything, paying for everything. It means sometimes saying no. It means setting limits. It means teaching, even if it hurts, what respect is. Mateo needed to learn this lesson, and he learned it the hardest way possible. But he learned it. Today he's a different man. More attentive, more grateful, more present. He looks at me and really sees me, not as the mother who solves problems or finances dreams, but as Elena, woman, widow, survivor. And that is priceless. I learned also that manipulative people study their victims. Sophia didn't choose me by chance. She saw a lonely widow, an only son, consolidated assets. She saw an opportunity and acted with surgical precision. That's why I say, beware of those who arrive promising too much, of those who call you mom before building a real relationship, of those who want access too quickly to your life, your accounts, your house. True intimacy is built with time. Haste is a sign of hidden interest. I look at the USB drive I still keep in the drawer, the one with the hotel invoice, the audio recordings, all the evidence. Sometimes I think about throwing it away, but I don't throw it because it reminds me of what I'm capable of when I decide to react. You're stronger than you imagine. Even when the world tries to convince you that you're too old, too confused, too weak, you're not. You're exactly what you need to be to survive. There's one thing people ask me a lot. Elena, do you forgive Sophia? And I answer honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness is not mandatory. Forgiveness is not something you grant because it's nice or because someone expects it. I don't carry hatred. I don't ruminate. But forgiving would require her to show real repentance. And as far as I know, she continues to do the same things, hurting other families. So no, I don't forgive. But I also don't let her occupy space in my head. She doesn't deserve my hatred or my forgiveness. She only deserves my indifference. And as for Chiara, she paid in her own way. She lost Matteo's friendship. She lost her reputation. I know from common sources that she had to leave Rome from the shame. She went to live in Milan, away from gossip, from judgments. Sometimes justice isn't prison. Justice is having to live with the consequences of your own actions. Julia enters the living room at this moment, smiling. Mrs. Elena, dinner is almost ready. Do you need help getting up? I don't need it, dear. I can still manage on my own. She laughs. I know you can. I'm just offering. I get up from the armchair. I feel my knee crack, age arriving. But I walk firmly to the kitchen. Matteo has set the table. Cloth napkins, nice plates, shiny silverware. Mom, I made that chicken with potatoes you love. I sit. They sit. And we say the prayer we always say before eating. The tradition Vittorio started, and we've never abandoned. Thank you, God, for the food, for family, for life. Amen. Amen, they repeat. We eat while talking. Julia tells about a funny student. Matteo talks about a new project at work. I listen, participate, laugh. And I realize this is wealth, not money in the bank. Not a big house, not an imported car. This moment, this table, this laughter. After dinner, when they leave, with long hugs, kisses on the forehead, promise to return on Sunday, I'm left alone in the house. But I don't feel alone. I turn on the radio. An old song plays, one of those Vittorio loved. I dance alone in the living room. I run my hand over the furniture. I feel the texture of the wood, the leather of the armchair, the fabric of the curtain. All this is mine. All this I protected. All this I reconquered. And when the pendulum clock strikes 6 in the evening, I stop dancing. I look at Vittorio's portrait hanging on the wall. Love, I did it. I protected our home. I protected our son. And I protected myself, too. I don't know if it's my imagination, but I swear I see his smile become a little bigger in the photo. So I go to the window. I open it. I feel the cool evening wind enter. And I think of you who are listening to me now. If you're going through something similar, if you're being manipulated, disrespected, diminished inside your own house, know you have the right to react, no matter your age, no matter who's on the other side. No one has the right to take away your peace, your dignity, your memories. Defend yourself, set limits, seek help, gather evidence, and when you're ready, show your claws. Because respect is not asked for, respect is imposed. And one last thing, the most important of all. You're not alone. There are more people going through this than you imagine. More mothers manipulated by daughters-in-law, more children deceived by spouses, more families destroyed by cold-souled con artists. But there are also more people who survive, who react, who win, and you can be one of them. I close the window. I turn off the living room lights. I go to my room, that small room that was too small, but that has now returned to being the large room, my room, where I sleep in peace. I lie on the bed. I pull up the crocheted blanket Vittorio's mother made. I close my eyes, and I sleep with the clear conscience of someone who did what had to be done. That hotel invoice, which was supposed to be just an administrative error, showed me the truth. And the truth, however painful, always sets you free. Good night. And remember, dignity is not negotiable. If this story touched your heart, if you saw yourself in some moment of this journey, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, leave your comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. I want to know that this story reached you. And if you believe that true stories like this should be told, that we need to talk about manipulation, about limits, about respect within families, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Because as long as there's one person suffering in silence, I'll continue telling these stories. Until next time, and may you never have to live what I lived. But if you do, may you have the courage to react, a strong hug, and may God bless you.